now that I have the 85 Softail off the lift, I'm going to go back to this old Panhead. This was my dad's bike. He passed away, left it to me, and I put it back together. This is actually the first time it's on this lift. When I put this back together, it was pretty much on top of milk crates and, you know, my floor. Since I moved, I've got this lift. I need to do some things on it. In the last 4 years, I've driven it around. My battery died. I'm back now. The batteries for these GoPros don't seem to last anymore. I've even bought replacements, but you put them in, they're like 15 minutes, maybe a half hour, and they're dead. So I'm trying to get through this quick. Long story short, there's a few things I need to look at on this bike. Number one is this movement here. It's pretty excessive when you're out on the road. I do have new bushings. Last time I tried to replace these, I couldn't get them out, so I need to put them on the press, which means taking a triple tree off, which means cutting the wiring. When I put this together, I did not, I just spliced all the wiring with solder. I didn't put any connectors in. I had no intention of taking it apart, and I figured if I ever did, I could always put a connector on it, which is what I'm going to do. That's one thing. The other thing is I'm going to replace these bars. I bought a set up in Washington, PA. They're in a lot nicer condition. This is really loose. The throttle on the new set of bars actually is much tighter, and it even has the original horn switch, which is kind of a bonus. It does not have an on-off switch. This is an aftermarket junk. Maybe I can find something that's useful online to replace that with. See if I can get some of the rattling to go away, and this certainly would feel safer if I had that fixed. I'm going to have to do a lot of work, take all these apart. There's some wiring that has to be taken care of and cut, put connectors in. All right, I'm going to start by removing some of these cables that aren't being used, starting with the blinker switch. This isn't going to be used at all, so I'm going to pull out everything I'm not going to be using and then see what's left. Once I can get the wiring straightened out, then I can start taking all this apart. I want to be able to take the top triple tree out, push out these bushings, and push in the new ones, so on and so forth. I guess removing those tanks was a good idea because I forgot I tie wrapped the throttle cable. What we have, so we have this handlebar here, and the wiring is a little crusted on it. I might have to cut this and add an extension anyway. I don't want to take this apart because once you do that, these things they don't ever go back together. So I'm going to just go ahead and put on that. As far as this cable, pull this out, pull this out, and this out, and finally I'll pull this out, the whole thing all in one shot. So we'll work on that next, just pulling these handlebars out. I need to disconnect 1 and 2, leave them hanging, and then I can pull the bars. That's not good. Probably gonna have to go over this with a wrench, top to bottom, front to back. That doesn't look too good. I wonder if I can find another one of these somewhere. I don't know. For now, I'll just leave it. Clean all this stuff off. I do have a tensioner. I don't know if it'll work on here though. Maybe I got the wrong one. But oh, looks like I might have some fluid up in here. I can take this over to the 12-ton press and I can push out these old bushings. I do have new ones. Yeah, there we go. So in here, I don't have a place to put these right now, but okay. So here's the riser bushings I got. These have to be pushed out. Don't tell me these are welded. That's crazy. These are welded in, so I'm gonna have to cut that weld. Are they supposed to be welded? No way. I thought they were press fit. I don't see how they could be welded in. I guess I'll have to check the interwebs on that. This is that steering dampener kit. I have to look up the instructions on how to put that together, and I think this is actually part of the riser kit, so I'll put these over here. So I'm not going to do that now, I don't think. Okay, now that I have the carburetor installed, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can pop these out. I'm going to use a Dremel to cut these beads, and hopefully once I cut these out, I can then pop these out with the with a hammer, probably, I'm assuming, right? Because why else would you weld those in there? So, all right, let's see how that goes. Alright, now I'll see if I can knock these out with a hammer. Alright, well, I gave it a try, and all I did was get a socket stuck in there. Mangled this up really bad. I was able to get this bead cut, but man, these are not coming out at all. And I feel like I'm just going to mangle them. Ended up bending this a little bit in the process. So I'm going to set this over there. And I have this triple tree, which is from a newer bike, and it fits. And I have all new bushings for it. These will go away. I'll probably have to get some shorter riser bolts. But I'm going to clean this up. I'll use them for the old Panhead for now. The only thing is it's missing these side screws. But that's okay. This will at least get me back on the road. Maybe I can source one of these on eBay. Maybe I can get this fixed. I don't know. This is an original part, so I believe it is anyway. It might not be. I don't see a Harley part number on it. I don't see a Harley part number on this one either. Alright, I'll do some more research, but in the meantime I'm going to clean this up and use it on the bike. Okay, I figure we'll try to get these handlebars finished today. I decided not to go with this tensioner kit for a couple of reasons. One, if you notice, it has like a little catch here. That little catch, there should be a bolt that comes out of here, and this needs to be, this is all stripped out. So what I did is I just put the new collar bolt here to tighten up this front end. This was like probably a good 1/8 gap there before with the other one. You can see this is the old one that was used. It's broken. It's actually very difficult to put this on there. It was super tight, so we had to put lubricants and just kind of tap it in with a screwdriver and a hammer. So This is obviously not for this, but I put it on there anyway because, hey, cover up some of that gap. And this is actually a front end, a newer front end top, triple tree top, where I can actually put the bearings in for the handlebars. But this should give me much more solid front end than previously. I can still use this. I got some good bolts to use, hold everything down. Got the Arlen Ness bushings here, so these will go right here. Look really good. So yeah, we're not doing a restore here, obviously. This bike was my dad's, and he pretty much rode it. It didn't do much as far as restoration work. A lot of this bike has a lot of parts from other years. So my plans for today is to essentially get these handlebars put back together and figure out what I'm going to do with the wiring, as well as the the turn signal. So I'm taking out all the turn signal wiring. I still have to pull out some more of that. And also I did find, and I don't have it here. Yeah, here we go. I do have in the bag a handlebar light switch for Harley XL FL 38 through 79. This will actually require drilling out the bars to put these in. And so I might just go ahead and do that. It would be nice to be able to turn the headlights on and off, or at least high and low. So let me get cleaned up and set up for that, and then I'll come back with the video and we'll start recording. Okay, so this is what we're working with. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure these go all the way down before I put Loctite on. I want to make sure they're not protruding out through the bottom here once I tighten them down, because that could end up pinching this off once I put Loctite on it. And I got to clean everything out again. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these all the way in. I did, basically an eyeball test, and it looked like it was okay, but this way we can make sure before we do anything permanent. So that's just finger tight, and it looks like we get plenty of room there. So good. I'm going to go ahead and take these off, put some Loctite on it, and put them all back together. Okay, so I have the new bushings in, the existing clamp for the handlebars. I know it's a little crusty, but this is what was on the bike when I got it. I will eventually put the original back on once I get it fixed properly and the correct bushings put in. So I'm going to move on to the handlebars. This is super solid now. Before, like, you could move this back and forth and the whole front end would go flopping around. I mean, it's solid as a rock now. I might have to loosen it a little bit. In any case, let's take a look at the handlebars. So these are the handlebars. These in the middle, these are the ones that were on the bike. If you notice, there's like a real nice curve here. This one's a lot more gradual. Same here, the new one's more gradual. The original has this like extreme curve. The other thing is too, the throttle cable on mine is a lot shorter than the throttle cable that came on this extra set. And of course, we have the electrical. This is the original wiring, it looks like, for that horn. And this is one of those aftermarket horns. I mean, it works sometimes. Most of the time it doesn't. You got to really get on it. This looks like, one of these originals. Won't it'll work every time. So I'm kind of hesitant to take this apart, because as soon as you take this off, this could all fall apart. But I am going to need to cut the wire, splice it, put a new wire that comes out here, because this is just all frayed, and it's probably going to be bad shape inside as well. I'm going to take the throttle apart too, because I need to remove this throttle cable and probably put mine on it, which is shorter, so it's not just flopping around. And then that'll give me the ability, once I have these parts out, I can mount these handlebars up and see how they feel, because maybe I just want to go back to the original. I kind of like the Super Glide feel, the way these, with this curve, these look like they're going to be more, more out to the side instead of up and down. I'll have to get these parts out so I can mock it up and see what it looks like. Or maybe I'll just do that now just to throw it on there and see. I'm not sure if I like that. That's sticking out really far on either side. That's farther out than the bags are. I feel like I'm reaching out instead of reaching forward. So I really don't know if I like it. Yeah, well, you know what? I have a bunch of handlebars here that I've collected. And who knows, maybe I can take one of those. Got kind of like the modern setup though. That's a shame. You work on these bikes, you run into one little problem and it just turns into a bigger problem, bigger problem. You're hoping just to deal with one little thing. And you're like, well, I can't let that go. I can't let that go. And before you know it, you're replacing entire pieces when everything else was perfectly fine before. So I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this. I'm not sure I like that. I'd rather the bars be further in. I kind of like how the... Here, you know what? Let me put the other bar up there. I can show you the difference. Okay, for comparison, on the left is the original bar. You see how that comes up and then down. And on the right is the new one. It just comes straight out. You look at it from the side, see how that other bar comes down, right? I kind of like that the way it is when I'm riding. So this just feels like, you know, they say this old tractor. Well, that's what it feels like to me, is I'm holding on to a 4-foot wide steering wheel. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to sleep on it, decide what I'm gonna do. All right, I've decided to go with these bars. I think these will probably work out better anyway in the long run. One of the problems I have with the Super Glide bars, they would come up and then down, and I would always have to grab it like up here, because this would always feel like I'm sliding off. I couldn't really get a grip, so I'm grabbing up here. My son, I think, had to do the same thing. So I think hopefully these grips with this stance will give it a little bit easier rideability. So I think what I'm going to do is take this apart, clean it out, oil it up, and get the throttle cable from my bike, from the original handlebars that are already cut to the length. I actually do have a new core, so I can replace the internal core. Okay, so here you can see this is a solid throttle cable. I think this might actually be original, but I did buy some of this. So I'm going to take this out and inspect it and see if there's any kinks. If there are, then I'm going to go find the one that I have in a box and remove it and replace it with one that doesn't have any kinks. So I don't think this has any kinks in it, to be honest with you. It seems pretty straight. We'll find out as soon as I take it apart. Alright, I'm going to start by removing the throttle cable from here. You can see these bars look like they got dragged too. I don't know if you could see that here. My original bars kind of had that same thing here. Looks like they might have been dropped at some point. It doesn't matter to me. It's an older bike. I'm going to go ahead and pop this off. If I were to restore this back to any kind of factory or whatever, then yeah, they would go away. Okay, so I don't want to lose any of these parts. Little things like this that could be bad, so I'm going to take these off and set them aside. This way I don't lose anything. I need to slide this down because the throttle cable is going to be connected up in here. Stuck on something in there. So what I need to do is get to this screw and unscrew it. Then this whole throttle cable will come out. I can feed the other one up into it. But what I want to do is pull this down far enough so I can actually reach the cable. This button might be in the way, so I'm going to take this button out. I do need to rewire this anyway, so taking this out is actually going to be helpful. very carefully I want to pull this out, hopefully without breaking it. Yeah, there you go. All right. That was not good. Well, I can get to this now. I'm going to pull it all the way out. It's interesting. This. So under here, the little screw I should have unscrewed. There's a little cam in here that the screw kind of grabs onto, and that holds it in place. And that just moved with it. So I'm guessing that probably needs some work. Okay, finally got the pieces out. Here's the throttle. It does certainly needs some oil. Everything's all dry here. Hopefully I didn't destroy this. I am going to clean it up, test it out. I'm probably just going to cut these wires, splice on a longer wire so they'll fit through the they'll fit through the bars easier. But one thing I did notice here is this kink. I don't know how bad that is. Let me take this apart because I'm going to use my other throttle cable anyway. Now, here's that set screw. I wasn't able to get it out. It looks like it's just a flathead. I don't know if we could see in there. Yeah, you can't really see in there, but that should be protruding down there far enough in order to grab this lip right here and hold it in place. The fact that I was able to pull this out without touching this set screw, that's a problem. So I'm going to remove this, see if I have something else to use there. So when I put it all back together, we have to make sure that this cam, this little groove right here, that screw sits down in here like so, and that kind of holds it in place and locks it in place. This way the actuator can actually pull this way and, you know, back and forth, and without having to slide the whole cable with it. So I need to get this out of here, and then now that I have the bars off, I can shine them up and everything and clean them really nice and grease them up. Okay, so here are the two cams. This is for the set of bars I got at the swap meet. This is what was in my Panhead. They're in good shape. You know, everything's clean and everything, so I'll probably just copy, you know, move this stuff over. And it's already attached here. So I'm going to pull this out of here just to see if there's any kinks in it. Make sure that there's no, you know, like, so for instance, that would be a kink. I'll bend, not so much. So let's take this out of here and we'll see what it looks like. So it looks like we have a slight kink right here. I don't think that's going to be major though. I could probably just bend that right back. But otherwise the cable itself is in good shape. You know, this is just a piece of solid wire. These old Panheads, you know, the newer bikes have essentially two, because they both pull. One pulls it open, the other pulls it back closed. This one, it's actually a pull and push. So when you let off the throttle, you have to kind of manually let off the throttle, and then it pushes this and closes it. The spring back on these bikes is very minimal. Talking to a guy up in New Jersey once, he said he likes that. It's his cruise control. You know, he'd like to be able to take his hands off the throttle and scratch his butt without having to slow down. I kind of agree with that. I think that's really handy. So, you know, original cruise control. Very simply through friction. Okay, let me see if I can get through this. I'm going to clean these parts up off camera. I still can't get this set screw out. I definitely want to get it out of there so that we can use this bar properly, and I'd hate to drill that out, but it's stuck in there pretty hard. So I'm going to have it soaking with some PT Blaster right now. So hopefully, or PB Blaster, hopefully that'll take care of it for me. Okay, I set up the handlebar of the mill here with a drill bit that's slightly smaller than the diameter of this hole. What I like to do is just drill straight through the bolt and then see if I can use a tap just to kind of go through and clean out the rest and preserve the threads. Worst case, I mean, I might just have to drill this a little bit bigger, and rethread it with a different screw, different set screw. You know, if that's what I got to do, then that's what I got to do. But I think that this should at least get me the ability to get this screw out, retap it, and then with the same side set screw. All right, I'll take this over to the bench, see if I can run a tap down through that. All right, now let's see if this set screw will fit in there. Let's hope I drilled it right. All right, I think that'll work. So the other set screw I had to drill out, it's dead. This is the one from my other bars. I drilled this out with, what is this tap here? A 10 NF32. I didn't even know I had that. Now, let me clean these bars up. I'll clean them up a little bit here, real quick with some carb cleaner. But I need to get inside as well and clean that out. And so it takes a lot of lube. And then I can put this back together and put it on the bike. I took the horn apart. You see how rusty that is. So I'm going to drop it in here in this rust remover. I went ahead and trimmed this. Put some extension wires on here. They're more flexible. And so I'm hoping to get this rust off because it's not actually actuating because of that rust. So what this should do is at least help clear the rust off of there. Then I can just go over it lightly with sandpaper to get rid of the rest of that. I don't want to just go at it right now with sandpaper because this is a very delicate part, and the last thing I need to do here is destroy it. I'm going to try with this. Hopefully that'll fix the problem. I can put it back together. You can see here, this is an example of an aftermarket part. They're not built very well. It looks like they're built similar to the original. As you can see, as that pushes in, this center one makes contact with the outside, just like here. But this one's real sketchy. It works, it doesn't work. It could be made to work, so I'm not going to break it. I might end up taking it apart and cleaning it if I can't get this one to work right. So I'll let this sit here for an hour or so. See if I can get that to clean up, and then I'll move forward. I'll try to get this all back together. Okay, I have this pretty much cleaned up, and I also fixed this button. Notice now, once it's here, got my meter there. So I took this apart and I basically cleaned it with a wire brush. This is an old spring that was part of it. It's like really toast. I just happened to have had a spring that was a little bit smaller, but it was just big enough. I had to chop a little piece off, and it was just big enough to fit in here into this assembly. And I extended the wires. Now they're coming out here. So now what I'll do is I'll tighten this down and I'll run the throttle cable through, and then that should give me the ability to put this back on the bike. So let's see if I can get that taken care of. All right, I'm going to use these nicer screws that I found before. Can't seem to get that started. There we go. Okay. I don't know why these don't want to screw down easily. Just gotta make sure that that still works. Okay. This is where we need to get that cam right down in there, but I think it's probably going to get hit by this screw, so I'm going to take this screw out. look for that cam to show. Oop. There it is. So I have the groove here. So once I set this set screw in there, this cam can't go back or forward. Yeah, I think we'll be all right. So what I'll do, let me back this out, and I'll put some glue on that. Alright, and we're back on the bike. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and what I want to do is grease this really good inside. Grease this here, grease on the outside, grease all in here. Make this nice and greasy, and I want to do that on the bike where it's less messy. So let me grab my grease and some paper towels, because this is going to get messy. We'll get this back together properly. Okay, let's get this in here. Got a lot of grease in there. I just kind of smashed it in. Move this around. Make sure we have some nice movement. I don't think it matters if we have too much grease. Always wipe it off. Alright. Get that. A lot of grease inside here. Try to put it down into that runner. So now what I'm going to do, go ahead and slide this on. Let's find where that is. Go ahead and get a full turn. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, grease is a real mess to work with. I'll clean that. We're going to screw this in. Okay. I have to say that's a lot tighter than the other one, but we'll have to see once it's on the bike. Just this whole feeling here, we think is much more solid. The other one seemed to have a lot of play in it. This one really is good, so hopefully this will be much better to ride with. And my battery's about to die, so I'm going to shut this off and I'll start working on the other side. I'm back. Before the battery goes dead, I got the throttle all done. This is looking good. Everything's routed through here. I've decided that I'm not going to drill this. The cover for this is not from this bike, and there is a hole on this side. So I think what I'm going to do is get a toggle switch, or a little push button switch, push on, push off for the high-low beam. And that can keep my handlebar up here nice and clean. And I just have to put the front end controls for the brakes and the clutch, and we'll be done with this part at least. So I went ahead and remounted these controls with the tack back on. The wire's just hanging here. I still have to wire up all that. Well, that was a dumb one. I probably need to take this off and put it around the other side, so I'll have to take that off and redo it. This one went on no problem. Seems that bar is perfectly the right size. This one I actually had to stick a piece of rubber down in there to get this to clamp properly. I don't know if it's because the clamps, if you notice, it's a little thinner here and wider here. This clamp might actually be from something else. These, they all seem to match properly. No big deal, it works. So now it's just a matter of getting the gas tank done, and I might have to tighten this throttle up just a tiny bit, because here's the amount of movement before it actually engages the throttle. So I want to be able to get it so that it's all the way back and take away that lash, so that full closed throttle is full closed throttle, and as soon as you start pulling it, it'll start pulling up on the carb here. You see there's like little tiny bit of motion there as it pulls up the slack in that line, and then it goes. So that's all I'm going to do, is try to get the slack out of this line. This isn't like your traditional newer bikes where you can just adjust a little setting under here. This all has to come down to here. And this is a real pain because that's a difficult screw to get to, especially with this in the way. So I had to use a little 1/4 inch wrench to tighten that down. And you kind of need like 4 people, 2 people and a wrench, and somebody to hold this and somebody to hold this, you know. So who knows, maybe when my son comes over today for Christmas dinner, we can steal away down here and see what we can do to fix that up. But for now, I'm going to wait on the wiring until almost the last thing. To pop this back around the other side of the bars, because I'm an idiot. Maybe I'll just pop this out, slide it out so I can take this all apart again. And then it's on to the tanks. And once the tanks are finished, you know, I'm going to have to do some work here. I'm going to see if I can maybe fix this problem too, where it tends to fall as I'm riding. So I have this little clip that I put in there, and I know this is kind of standard for a Panhead, that you need to have a paper clip or clothesline clip, but this is what I use. And I'll just kind of put this here and then stick this on the fuel. Actually what I do is I stick it up underneath so that this distance here keeps it from dropping back down. Can't really show you that here since this is all taken apart, but you get the idea. That should just stay up on its own through friction, and maybe there's something in there. I just have to look at them, take it apart and clean it. We'll get to that later. This is still the handlebars. So all right, I'm not going to be able to take this for a test ride today. It is raining. I'm not going to get the tanks finished anyway by today, so I got a couple more days left of my vacation, not including the weekend. So hopefully I can finish this up before the weekend, and maybe Sunday, if it's not raining, take it out and see if I can get that carb adjusted properly, get it up to temp, make sure everything's working properly, and then you know, stow it away until the nice weather comes. All right, talk to you later.